my flower essence teacher. He basically taught me really important pieces of information. One, every flower on the planet has a really specific benefit that it offers us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, life path. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could cure myself with flower essences.
Hmm.
So that was kind of my personal curiosity. So when I came back from Mexico to the US, I saw clients for 10 years and I prepared flower essences for them. And that was my form of flower therapy. But at a certain point, I just saw so many people experiencing such radical transformations and being able to drop all kinds of baggage and feel happier and healthier and look younger and more vibrant, and their relationships are improved. And, after so many of these stories, I was like, I have got to get this to more people.
Yes.
But in the same way, I'm never going to say, Michelle, that all people have to do is take flower essences and they'll become enlightened. Hell
Right.
no. Flower essences are opening the door. Ultimately, we have to walk through that door.
But isn't that what any plant medicine ceremony is anyway? It shows us a door, it shows us a portal, might take us in it, and then it's up for us in that integration, which is called all of life, because life is a living ceremony, to weave those insights of what you
Yeah.
saw when the door was open, right? It's being the creator of our reality on the daily. Well, hey there, and welcome back to Fire and Soul, the space to deepen into your divine alignment and further activate your spiritual awakening. And that's exactly what this conversation is today. It's a weaving of the awakening process and beginning to listen to those nudges and divine directives. And today's guest is a longtime dream guest of mine because I've been working with her product, Lotus Wei, flower essences, mist, elixirs, and oils for a couple of years now, and it's been a bit of a game changer to say the least. So, founder of Lotus Wei, Katie Hess, is joining us today, and it's such a special conversation. I've listened to her on many different podcasts, and I've never heard her share in the ways that she did here, and especially as she opens the conversation with what was just clearly on her heart and what was most alive and present for her to weave into this conversation. And really, it is about the allies that assist us, the flowers, the plants, the consciousness of all sentient beings, and these times that we find ourselves in as a collective, and how we truly do have everything within us to shift everything about our own reality that then of course becomes this ripple effect. Now, Katie shares some really personal, poignant stories and reflections on exactly what she means by that. And it's just this beautiful tapestry, if you will, of a woman who's clearly embodied in her calling, and that her calling is to be in service to the whole. And you feel that blast of love and unity, energy when you go on to Lotus Wei website, when you check out her Instagram, and certainly I believe that you will feel that transmission in this conversation as well. This is a beautiful dosing of a high frequency invitation for all of us to remember to drop back into our hearts in the present moment and to attune to what is happening within in times when it can be a little crazy out there. And so let me give you her formal bio. My light is a little crazy right now, so I'm just going to do my best and read over here. Katie Hess is an expert of flower alchemy, using the healing power of flowers to awaken our true potential. She travels in search of rare flowers with the healing qualities most needed today, from the forest of British Columbia to sacred sites in India, rainforest in Costa Rica, hot springs in Iceland, and the jungles of Taiwan. Katie captures the activating life force potential of flowers and translates it into an accessible method to bring more happiness into our daily lives. One of the most sustainable forms of natural medicine, flower remedies, are known for their short term benefits like clarity, focus, and sleep, with long term benefits of rapid personal growth. Having gathered empirical research from thousands of private clients, Katie created a flower essence library with over 150 elixirs, now used by people in more than 50 countries. This is a very exciting conversation, a long time coming. I couldn't be more honored to share it with you. And if you feel called to take a listen to this and you want to be supported by these beautiful flower and plant allies and enjoy a nice discount, you can head on over to lotusway.com/, Fire and Soul and receive a nice discount as you begin your journey into this beautiful portal. And that's LotusWei.com. And I will also, of course, link that in the show notes and all the ways in which you can connect with Katie and her incredible team that I'm excited to meet here in the Austin area on April 11th for a really cool flower lounge experience. And so, as you're listening to this in real time, as we drop a few days before then in your local, or you can easily get here or know that you need to be here, then by all means, you want to head on over to lotuswei.com and see about getting your ticket. I'm not an affiliate on that. I just feel really called to share the beautiful medicine with you. All right, my loves, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Katie Hess, founder of Lotus Wei. This is such a special day for me, Katie, to have you here on Fire and Soul. I've been working with Lotus Wei for over 2 years now, and it's a dream to have you here. So thank you so much. And I'm just want to give you a big, warm-hearted welcome to Fire and Soul.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Michelle.
My honor, truly. I want to give my good friend Natalie, she's a Sunshine Soul sister, and we met actually not long ago, only in 22 in Ojai, California. And when I was going through some of the steepest parts of my own awakening, and anyone who's gone through something like that, many of the listeners and viewers to this show have or are, knows how intense that is. And so in some of the deeper parts, when I was still in Los Angeles, she sent me my very first Lotus Wave package. And it was the kindest, most thoughtful, generous gift ever. But I'll tell you, it sat on my shelf for probably 4 or 5 months because I didn't understand that I had been just given the gift that I'd been given. I was using other things. I didn't have a connection yet. And then when it was time, it was time. I mean, it feels like Sacred Heart, which is where I started. She got the mist, the elixir, and the anointing oil. I want to say she got that. No, she might have gotten joy juice. And then it just started beckoning to me and it helped me get really rooted and grounded. And so I want to give Natalie a lot of love because if it weren't for her, I don't know if I would be as deeply connected. And I also just want to say thank you. And so, where did this start for you? I mean, I've heard so many parts of your story, and I want to know whatever is alive in your heart in the moment because that's such a wide open question of your calling that is so clear that you are meant to be doing exactly what you're doing.
Mm. I mean, it really started when I was little, when I was 7 years old, and I was an only child, and I was really searching like I mean, I know it sounds weird, right? But I was out in the middle of nowhere. I was in this tiny town in Michigan. I was literally like at a little patch of three little houses on Lake Michigan and this little girl, with my parents. So it was like I kind of felt like alone in this big giant world, and I was like, where are my people? Like I know I'm supposed to be doing something here. I know I'm supposed to be working with like a team. Where's my tribe, essentially? And I read a book about astral projection. And so that was like, my thinking of like, if I could just every night before I'd go to bed, I would like practice and try to project myself to where I knew that I needed to be.
Wait,
I
how
mean,
old were you when you were
I was,
talking,
I
reading
was,
books on astral projection?
I know, it was like my escape plan or my like activation plan, but it didn't work. I never got any proficiency at it. And then I had to just, buckle up and be a kid and go to school and finish out all the stuff until I made it through college. And then I was like, okay, now I'm down to business. Now I'm going to go find what I'm supposed to find. And it was really, I guess it was more like a spiritual calling, but it was also watching my friends, older friends of mine graduate from the university and kind of get locked into like cell phone bills and car bills and mortgages but also have these jobs where they weren't really sure if that's what they wanted to be doing.
Mhm,
And some of them were kind of miserable.
mhm,
So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I got to figure out what I want to do first before I like lock myself in. And so I'd already lived in Europe for a couple of years in Spain and Germany as an exchange student. So I was proficient in a couple languages and I thought, well, I could go to Mexico and I could do volunteer work. And I found this really cool program in Querétaro, which is a huge city, maybe 3 hours from Mexico City. And I did that. And in my free time, I studied everything I could find about natural medicine.
mm,
They had all kinds of crazy stuff in the late 90s in Mexico, from like bee sting acupuncture to urine therapy to, all essential oils and all the different kinds of yoga. And
Way
stuff.
before it was like mainstream or cool. Yeah.
I mean, in the late 90s, I mean, it was pretty unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Because, Mexico's a developing country. And even the taxi drivers in the late 90s knew the difference between essential oils and flower essences.
Oh,
It was
whoa.
crazy. I know. And
Of course, we need to learn too, so we'll get there in a moment.
yeah, I mean it's interesting because if you look at like around the world, even today, like the US is, more and more people are finding out about flower essences, but you see like, Australia's got them in every pharmacy on every corner of the block. And in Europe, the doctors, even allopathic doctors, are recommending them to women during pregnancy. You see it in Asia to some extent. US is a bit behind. And, that was one of the things that motivated me so much. Once I found my flower essence teacher, who was from Madrid, which is bizarre because I had already lived in Madrid for a year at that point. I didn't meet him there.
Yeah.
I had to go to Mexico to meet him.
Interesting.
Right. And then he basically taught me two really important pieces of information. One, as you know, every flower on the planet has a really specific um, benefit that it offers us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, life path, stuff. And I just thought that is so cool. Like I had heard of herbs. I was already working with a lot of herbs and essential oils at that point to try to heal myself of some health issues. And this was like really far out. He was saying actually all physical illness is caused by emotional or mental patterns. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could cure myself with flower essences.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of my personal curiosity. And then he also said if we could get 3% of the world's population consistently working with these essences, it would change the future of the planet because we would have such a crazy ripple effect around the world. And that little 7-year-old little girl part of me that was looking for my spiritual path was like bang on, like so activated by that. Like, yes, I can devote the rest of my life to this because that makes sense to me. And I I had no freaking clue what he was talking about. I mean, it's so funny because sometimes people say things to you and it like resonates so deeply without really quite understanding like what does that mean ripple effect? What does that mean change the future of the planet? What like how? How does that even work?
Right.
And I think I didn't really understand what he was talking about until a few years ago. I've
Oh,
been hustling for like 20 some years at this flower essence story. And when 2020, 2021 hit, I was like, oh, now I understand how emotions can be contagious and how, on a world stage, you can have contagious fear or you can have contagious love.
yes.
You can have whatever your driving force is. And, in that moment, I think I got on a deeper level of,
Hmm.
okay, this is what we're actually talking about. This is why this is so important. This is why I've devoted my whole life to this because
Hmm.
it illuminates how powerful we actually are.
Hmm.
We think it's like a little pretty flower. We walk by them every day. We drive by them. We see them. They're pretty. They're gorgeous. And we don't really think much of it.
Hmm.
They're like static. To us, moving really fast, they're not moving. They're just still.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's a huge reflection of how we feel about ourselves sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes we feel like we're all alone or we're limited or we feel like we've been handed circumstances that are too challenging or we feel like why me or what could I really do? Or we look around the world and we see all the crazy shit and we're like, how could little old me make a difference in all this soup of stuff?
Hmm.
And it's the same story as with the flowers. It's actually like the furthest thing from the truth that actually as a human being, and we can talk more about this, um, we have a tremendous capacity to impact the world just right here without going out, without joining 15 nonprofits, without sending a bunch of charity money, without sitting right here where you are in your life with all the tools that you have. We have a massive capacity to impact the world.
Oh, yeah, we can definitely go deep into that because if that's also alive in your heart, I absolutely want to go there. And also, I have been feeling that so deeply. I have shifted into some sort of a miracle frequency, is the way that I would describe it. It's like my friend Bonnie also calls it divine lightning. And but it's also super subtle, super gentle, super soft. And it's a whole communication thing that's beginning to happen with not flowers yet, roses, yes, but and cactus, but mainly trees. And I mean, tree medicine is coming to me. It helped me so much in the really deepest parts of the awakening experience that's obviously infinite. Um, and now tree medicine is really wanting me to understand what self-love means, what it feels like, how beautiful it is, how available it is. And so I have a matriarch tree in my backyard, and so there's communication all day, every day, and it's just incredible to see how she serves also all the critters, all the creatures. Like, yeah, it's a whole thing. And so I don't know even know if there's anything in there for you to pick up on, but maybe what wants to be asked is, are you also noticing in the world of like ordinary people like me that didn't really know about this until a few years ago, that we're beginning to have this communication and we're beginning to get pulled and drawn. And even though it's yes out there, but also it's a reflection of what's happening within.
I mean, we're all ordinary people. We're all ordinary humans. And this is a capacity and like the communication with nature is like innate, right? Like I think about, being a kid and like, you can think about whatever, experiences you had as a kid. We're like always playing in the climbing trees and playing in the weeds. And even if you lived in New York City growing up, there'll be like a dandelion coming out of the cracks. And um,
Yeah.
this language is innate within us. And it's something that all of us know how to do, whether we're aware of it or not. Like it's as simple as you walk into a flower shop or you walk into a forest or a meadow, you will always be drawn to those flowers or plants that can heal and benefit you the most in that moment. And
Mm.
we know that. Like, we know that. We don't even know we know that. We think it's like an arbitrary choice, like, oh, this one looks cute, or I like the color or the shape. And yeah, we do. But it's more profound than that. And uh, we can trust our senses, like the things that smell good to us, the things that, to most extent, that taste good to us. Um, like our body's always seeking balance. And I think that even just knowing that is like such a relief, that we can trust our intuition, that we don't necessarily need a doctor in a white coat, although it's great to have support.
Yeah.
We'll always move towards the things that can heal and benefit us most in the moment.
Yes, if we learn to slow down and listen. And so I would love to hear anything that you want to expand on about that earlier comment of, everything that we need in order to shift the world in these evolutionary times. It's right here. And for those of
Mhm.
you listening, you were speaking really hand gestures around the heart.
Yeah, and I think it's like so cliche, right? Like it's so easy for me to get here and say everything you need is within. And it's like, what? What does that mean? Like really, what does that mean? And
It's true.
it's true, but it's like the way I see it is okay, I'll talk about a study. Studies are fun, right? There was a study, I love quoting the study because it's just so fun. A longitudinal study, a 10-year study in Boston. And the crux of this study was that they found that if your friend's friend became wildly happy
Mm.
in this moment, it would have more of a beneficial effect on you than if someone put $5,000 cash in your pocket.
Yeah.
And I've been joking lately that like with inflation, it's probably more like $10,000,
At least.
So, like your friend's friend, somebody you don't even know, becomes wildly happy. It has more of a beneficial effect on you than if someone put $10,000 cash in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's wild. And, vice versa. Like if you become wildly happy,
Mm.
it benefits someone, friend's friend that you don't know.
Yes.
Um,
Mm.
and that's really like, I think that's really what we're talking about here is this tremendous sense of impact on others without even knowing it.
Yes.
Our state of mind and our mood and the things that we're willing to look at and the things that we're resisting. And when we finally break down and just get vulnerable and like look at our
Mhm.
blind spots and see the more that we can unravel patterns, and there's so many different kinds of patterns, we can talk about that too. The more that we unravel the patterns, um, the more we become like our true nature.
Yes.
So in the flower essence world, I talk about at least three different kinds of patterns. One is all the ways that your ancestors have thought and felt. Like, right, we hear about it. Actually, we hear about it quite a bit now these days. We hear people talking about like generational trauma.
Yes.
And, you know, back in the late 90s, my teacher from Spain was saying, you carry up to 7 to 8 generations of thoughts and emotions in your cellular memory. So, in
Right.
all of your DNA, in your cells, you're carrying around this system of thoughts and emotions.
Mhm.
We have a thought, we think it's us, it's super original. That's me, right? But actually, it could be just a repetition of something that my great grandfather or great grandmother was thinking.
Mhm.
And we have about 40,000 thoughts a day.
Mhm.
90% of them are like on repeat. It's the same damn thing we were thinking yesterday and the day before and the day
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, so there's all this generational, you know, if you had a family who had lived through a war or who had experienced sexual trauma or
Mhm.
who lived through the depression or you name it, all kinds of things, right? Um, we carry that in our systems.
Mhm.
Flower essences can turn down the volume on what is not us and turn
Mhm.
up the volume on what is our true nature, what's us.
Mhm.
Second form of patterning is anything that we learned from womb until now. Every experience we've had in this lifetime, some would even argue in previous lifetimes, that shapes and filters the way we see reality. Something will happen, and you and I will see it completely different based on how we grew up and the way that we're projecting our inner world into the outer world, the way we interpret the outer world, right? None of us are actually seeing reality as it is. I always think of it as like, you know, OG Instagram filters, you know, like we're all looking through these different types of filters.
Mhm.
What flower essences do is it helps us clear away the filters and see more of objectively what is reality.
Mhm.
It's what we're projecting onto it
Mhm.
based on our past experiences. And then finally, we have the collective consciousness.
Yes.
And that can be everybody living in California is in a collective consciousness.
Mhm.
That can be everybody living in Taiwan. That can be everyone living in the United States. That can be, when you get off, you get into an airplane and you fly somewhere else and you land and you get out into their airport. Whether it's Denver or Vancouver or Mexico City or anywhere else in the world, when you get off into that airport, you totally feel a difference.
Yes.
It's not just the air, right? It's not just humidity. It's not the smells. It's not the languages. There's something profound that energetically as human beings we know is different, and that's the collective. And we form parts of lots of different collectives. So the idea then there is flower essences also help us unplug
Mhm.
from any sort of collective thought patterns that are not healthy, are not useful, and are not us.
Yes.
They do not correspond to us, right?
Mhm.
So I can say over the last 25 years or so, what I've observed is there's been a tremendous change, you know, just in our lifetimes in terms of so many things. Like when you talk about like awakening process, you know, and in the early 2000s, like, girl, meditation and yoga weren't even cool then.
Oh, I know.
You know, like I think about my poor little 20-year-old, 20 some year old self trying to tell people about like the energy of flowers and how it can heal people. I mean, it was like nightmare at networking meetings.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I remember being in LA because I was there for 30 years until, just a few months ago and where when it was sort of its golden era and yoga works and the Ravolution sort of realm, that was like already like 2011, 2012. So that's a huge gap before it became the coolest thing ever. So you are out there just taking a stand for this mission that you're like, I know this is what I'm meant to do. And then for it to be full circle 15 years later is just pretty stunning. So, what have you noticed with the patterns that you just referenced, and then this collective
Yeah.
consciousness and around the awakening process?
I think we move through stages and we move through like, you know, for people who've never worked with flower essences or maybe they're just getting into like practices or spiritual practices, it's like or for all of us at some point we kind of cycle back to like survival mode.
Yep.
Like either I can't sleep or I need love or I'm in a crisis or I'm experiencing a tremendous amount of stress or I'm depressed or I'm in grief mode something really intense. And there are flower essences to like just get us to a point of stability.
Hmm.
The moment that our system experiences stability, then we have the courage, the strength to kind of dig in a little. That's when there are, other flower essences available to us that are like, okay, let's look at trauma. Let's look at the things that nobody really wants to talk about, like fear of abandonment,
Hmm.
betrayal. Do I belong? Did I have a good relationship with my parents? What's tough? What was tough for me in my life, right? And then we move into like, how are we in the broader community? Like, do we trust ourselves in the unknown? Can we receive help, really? Can we receive nourishment? And then from there, it's like in about 2020, some other stuff hit, which was like major, massive collective patterns.
Hmm.
Like, where do I belong? Where are my people? Do I belong here? Am I dirty? Am I a vector, like a dirty vector? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like really deep transformation, grief, surrender,
Yeah.
schism, separation, uh, which isn't the true nature of reality. We're
No.
not separate. We're interconnected and inseparable. But going through this massive external period of people being pulled apart and families pulled apart and um, what do you call that? Polarization,
Yes. Extreme.
extreme polarization, and also I would say probably multiple decades of, you know, we don't like to look at it, but like some nefarious forces that are designed to make us unhealthy and separate.
Yeah.
And people started to look at that and become more familiar with that and see the things that we don't really want to see. Like nobody wants to talk about child trafficking, But in the, early 2020s, it was like, okay, we're becoming aware of things that we've never wanted to see before.
Hmm.
And I think there's a huge gift to that pain, which is like, it's just like in the world of flower essences. I tell people very slowly and gently, they'll show you something in your blind spot.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it, you can't do anything about it. You can't change it.
That's right.
But once you see it, it's unseeable.
Yeah.
Now you got to make a move, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think we went through this massive period of just like becoming more critical thinkers,
Hmm.
not just like jumping on the bandwagon of one side or the other side, seeing that the world is very complex, very nuanced, very subtle, so much more to the story on every angle inside you could imagine. And then just kind of finding within ourselves, like, where are my values?
That's right.
What's important to me?
Hmm.
Where am I willing to take a stand?
Hmm.
And from there, I think that like after those couple of years, I think our culture, the whole world had a lot of repair to do.
Hmm.
Like, do we really believe that the other person is an enemy?
Right.
Do we really believe that another human being is like dirty and gonna make us sick?
Hmm.
Um, and there's just like a lot to chew on there. And then from there, I'm thinking about the way that the flower essence is just sort of rolled out naturally over a couple decades, really. Um, am I able to really love and nourish myself?
Yes.
And what are the ways that I resist that? I fight it, and simple. Like, oh my God, I gotta pee. And then 3 hours later, it's like,
I
I
still can be.
still didn't go.
Right. Or
We're
eating or drinking water. Or, yeah, it's wild, actually. There's been some studies on that. Like, women are notorious for that. We will hold it and not go in the night or, just hold it, hold it, hold it. But it's interesting. Men, they need to go pee, they pee. They're hungry, they eat. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And maybe that's not universally true these days, but I remember hearing that multiple different times from different people, and it was just fascinating. But I did the same thing. Literally this morning, I was in a couple of back-to-back coaching calls, and I had time in between, to quickly go pee. And I was like, and so yes, fully with you.
Yeah, it's like how can I prioritize myself?
Yeah.
How can I reframe my cellular memory and my
Yeah.
etheric bodies to the fact that, you are the number one priority.
Yeah.
Um, because if there's no you, then you're not helping other people.
Yeah.
And then like it's not really like what's your purpose? I mean, in some ways I think the whole purpose thing is a sham because it's like it's not really what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Yes.
For, and so many things like we are amazing at and we don't discover until later in life. Like one of my business partner who makes the dark chocolate, Way of Chocolate, Lisa, she just in the last few years had discovered that she's like phenomenal at weaving.
Mm.
She got this huge loom and she's making the most incredible, like intricate tapestries and blankets and clothing. And I'm like, where on earth did this come from?
Mhm.
So like, it's not important what we're doing. It's like, what are we committed to in that moment? Like, what's our commitment? What's like a legacy that we want to leave in this world? What do we want to do before we die? What's our
Yeah.
vision? Who's on our team? What are we making happen here? Why are we here? And then more recently, I see kind of like one of the final frontiers is like, at least for right now, is just what are all those sneaky little weird fears that creep into our daily life? Conscious, subconscious, um, and like the fact that like the opposite of love is not hate, it's fear.
Yes.
And recognizing, I mean, I basically just went through this process a couple of years ago where I was like, holy crap, every move I make is like impacted by fear.
Yep.
I keep quiet because I don't want this person to leave.
Mhm.
Or I like be nice because I don't want to be abandoned. Or I withhold this something or other because I'm afraid of conflict. Or it's like all of a sudden it just hit me. Like every moment of the day was
Mm.
like impacted by fear. And that moment I was like, I have got to make flower essences for this. Usually the whole like anytime there's a new flower essence blend is because I've experienced something myself. So like Sacred Heart came out of me being so full of grief and so raw and so surrendered, like sitting out on somebody's front lawn, heaving sobs, snot all over my face, didn't care who saw me, just bottom.
That sounds
Like
right.
like a grief I had never experienced before. And I was like, fuck, I do not want anyone else to experience the depth of this pain. So I have to find some flowers and put them together so I can help people who get in this moment.
That's incredible. This is mine. And of course, I have the serum, and I'm going to probably show my whole collection because they're on my kitchen altar. I just love them. And these flowers are hope, resilience, and transmutation, and that's stability. That's what you just described as what I was experiencing. And I still keep them just in my field because there are days when that I need, and it's so interesting, right? The cycle of the awakening process, even though I know a lot of people don't really resonate with that term, I feel like it's very appropriate in my experience. But there's times where I'm like, I'm making progress, 3 steps forward, and it's like, oh, 5 steps backward, And so it's like whatever allies I can have from this beautiful realm to assist me in those moments that feel really tough and I can't do it on my own. It's like, why not have those? Yeah, so that totally makes sense. I have a question for you. Is awakened perception more of like when you're beginning to see from a wider lens?
Awakened Perception is so there's three in the Awakened series, and that's when I really started focusing on fear.
Uh-huh.
That one in particular is like being afraid of seeing things out there or like afraid of things out there.
Mm,
The
that
second
makes
one is
so much
more like
sense.
afraid of things in here.
Yes.
And then the third one is like kind of in the broader community. But the first one, I found that to be the hardest. It's like there's some really intense orchids in there for like weird stuff, that probably 10 years ago we wouldn't have even thought about, like fear of persecution, fear of attack.
Well, so that's when I started to use it. I started to work with that when I started to work with Truth Teller, right? And so awakened perception was openness to the truth, uninhibited freedom, and graceful navigation. And Truth Teller, beautiful little BFF, fearless speech, authentic expression, and conviction, because I too was going through this era of, I called it the quiet era, but really it was the fearful era. I was afraid to speak truth. I was afraid to lose clients. I was afraid to lose followers. I was afraid to all of it, right? And
Yep.
then actually last year I was in a numerology 9. It was like, it was just time. It was just so beautifully orchestrated of all the endings and closings and completions that it was like, just let it all go, right? Just totally surrender all of it. And that's when I actually started to bring back Joy Juice. So Joy Juice, it has just been like my BFF, laughter, playfulness, and happiness. And I just literally just even saying it makes me happy. I've given that to I don't even know how many people because I feel like no matter where I am on my journey, the Joy Juice is just like, why not a little extra joy? And then, no joke, and I didn't even know that we were supposed to be taking it 5 times a day, which I actually just read in a little bit of research with you. I was just doing it like twice a day. So I can only imagine. But then I started to notice, like, man, I'm feeling such a joyous frequency. And so much of the world, especially right around the general election here in the States, people were so upset either way. And I personally don't take a side. I figure if you're on a side, then they've got you. And so I'm just like, just try to be beyond any of that. And not that I'm above it, but just beyond it, just expanded past it. Um, and so then I started to notice that I felt some guilt around having so much joy. It was just like, realize, no, that's the whole point. Because if there are not a few of us like really expressing our joy and our love for life and the nectar of this beautiful planet that we have the privilege and honor to walk, then what? I can't just like go down into the trenches of the fear and the grief and the anxiety and
Oh
the
no,
rage.
you
Hell
can't stay there for
no.
too long.
Right? Exactly. So yeah, these have been allies in the most poignant times. But I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't actually circle back to you meeting your mentor or this amazing guide and you hearing that there was basically a remedy for every flower on this planet. And I think I've heard there's actually over 40,000 different species. Is that true?
There's 40,000 species of flowering
A
plants.
flower.
There's like hundreds of thousands of non-flowering.
Oh my goodness. And that
Yeah.
they all have a healing modality within them. And then you really get blown away if you're me and anyone else I know, and you go to your website, Lotus Way, and you take the flower quiz, and all you're asked to do is just which flower speaks to you? Which one are you most attracted to? Which one would you pick right now? And through a series of the same question being asked over and over and over again with tons of different flowers, you get your core signature customized curation for
Mhm.
wherever you are on your journey. And so I took the quiz again this morning. I hadn't taken it for probably 2 years. And I was like, how do they know? This is totally different than where I was 2 years ago. Like this package is so perfect for exactly what I'm navigating and where I need to take grand leaps and trust, kind of like where you were back in the day with your night blooming Sirius, which I'd love to hear that story. I'm just so excited you're here. There's a lot that I want to like weave in right now, but how about how Lotus Way came to be, the sort of
Mhm.
trajectory of that, and then when night blooming Sirius came into your life, and maybe we'll just pause there and then expand.
Okay. Yeah, so when I came back from Mexico to the US, I saw clients for 10 years and I prepared flower essences for them. And that was, like my form of flower therapy. I didn't ever think I would have products or a company. But at a certain point, I just saw so many people experiencing such radical transformations and being able to drop all kinds of baggage and feel happier and healthier and look younger and more vibrant, and their relationships are improved. And after so many of these stories, I was like, I have got to get this to more people.
Yes.
So I started a company. We started, making, oh, I think we made like 6 different elixirs, and it's kind of like the world wasn't really ready for us. We went to a big product expo on like Expo West in
Yes.
California. It's just kind of a dead end. And then we
A
actually,
huge investment, by the way.
is a huge investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember asking a guy as we were walking in the expo hall, like, how does this show do for you? It was so green. And he was like, oh, we don't sell here. This is just promotion. Like, you're not going to make any of that money back. And I was like, oh no. Um, and it's interesting because like that world is actually pretty masculine.
Yeah.
It's like, acai or like, the latest new ingredient. So we kind of took a turn and we headed into the spa industry, which was run by women, a little more holistic approach at the time. And that led to that experience of, finding a night blooming flower on this resort property and putting it into all the products that we made for them. It was kind of like this miraculous thing where I found this cactus about to bloom and collected it. And I thought, oh, I could put this into all the products. And even if nobody understands what the heck this is, it will still help them. And then finding out later that that particular flower only blooms one night a year.
One night a year.
And that flower changed my business, my life, like everything overnight. It had me, within months, I was making like hundreds of gallons of soap and lotion and massage oil and making things for the President of the United States and his family who came to stay. I mean, it was just like this crazy leap. And it's not that you don't have fear, but it's that the flowers just help you, move through it, and be able to embody a bigger version of yourself.
Yeah, that particular flower, it actually showed up in my new custom curation. And I think the reason why is because of what I just mentioned. I let go of pretty much all of my signature core offerings last year. And I was just like, all right, blind faith, but I just felt this call that there was just something else. And it is, I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. But now there's this creative project that I feel like it's so there, it's so done. I'm being so supported by incredible people in my life. And yet this sort of lack of motivation to take the action. So inspired action showed up in some sort of a formulation, the night blooming Sirius, and
Ooh.
I know. So it's for great leaps to move forward into my full potential. I mean, I'm just like, I can't remember the third one. I have it on my computer, but anyway, so I'm like, it's in the cart and I'm so excited to get it. But there was just no mistake in that. I also, though, found myself drawn to different plants this time, and certain plants where I didn't even know what they were. It didn't matter. I was just like, oh, I haven't even been curious about that kind of a thing before. Why is that little itty bitty, almost colorless thing grabbing my attention right now? Can you speak to how they began to speak to us in this night blooming series that clearly called to you the one night that it was about to bloom, that then changed the trajectory of your mission? That's incredible.
I mean, we're all like walking onions with lots of different skins. And when we encounter the right remedy, it's like we can peel off a skin, right?
Yes.
And then when we can peel off a skin, we see somebody else with that same skin and they see us peeling it off and they're like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Boom. And then it comes off from them. And then, it just kind of keeps going and blooming from there.
Mm. Mm.
It's like I believe that awakening is like a contagious process. It's not, it's kind of like birth and death. It's not always pretty. Sometimes we're in a little puddle on the floor, or something's really hard to look at. But there, we gain so much power and strength from those moments of difficulty. I
Mhm.
try to remind myself of that because when you hit a really hard patch, you feel like, oh my God, it's going to be like this forever. This is so terrible. How am I going to get out of this hole? But in those moments, I believe that's when we're like really grabbing onto more parts of ourselves and really we will experience a greater level of power and capacity and efficiency
Mhm.
that we can then put out into the world.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes
So important.
yeah, it's true, right? The deeper that you go, the clearer things become. And yeah, this is why it's yeah,
And
it's
I think because, in our culture, I just like, I can't emphasize it enough because our culture doesn't really teach us what to do if we have intense emotions.
yeah.
Like, what do you do with grief? What do you do with really deep jealousy or betrayal or anger? Or what do you do with all that crazy stuff, or feeling like you're going nuts?
Mhm.
Um, and what we're so often we move into like, how do I run away? How do I resist? How do I numb it out? How do I just say like, I'm fine, I'm great, and just like press it down into our physical bodies? But then we end up getting physical issues and we don't want to get sick, right? So how can we make the space to like to not get obsessive about it, just like continue to live our lives and also experience the good, but give ourselves room to be human
Mhm.
and to be a little nuts sometimes?
Yes, to let all the emotions belong. It's like I don't even really um, align anymore. I'm not judging it. I really don't think I am. Of like a scale of emotions and the hierarchy of that, I feel like they're all important and they're teachers and it's information. And it's like Can I be with shame? Can I be with judgment? Can I be with grief? Can I be with the enlightenment and the joy and the bliss? Because sometimes that's really hard to be with as well.
Well, can you have success? Can you win the winning lottery ticket? Can you receive? Like, that's hard too.
So it's like just being aware of my own judgment on the emotions. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's been a wild roller coaster, and like every hour feels like it at times, but at the same time, it just feels like it's beginning to smooth out the more that I just recognize that I can put myself into nourishing environments and I have these allies. Because, like I said, I mean, I have five on deck right now that are at my kitchen altar, and I don't remember a time ever having less than five. And now I know I've got like a whole bunch more that are going to come home, and I was like, they're now actually more aligned for me at this point on my path, but I still have these for those moments where it's like, yeah, I layer. I love to layer, by the way. It's so much fun because I don't wear any sort of perfume. It's like this is my essence. I also wanted to weave back, though I know it's on the website, but can you share in your own words in real time, yes, the difference between flower essence and essential oils and or even like herbal remedies and how they might get confused as from your lens?
So I think of the part of the plant that you're using is what it's serving. So when you look at herbs, you're using from top to bottom, from flower to root to leaf to seed, everything, right? And you're making tinctures or teas, and it's serving our entire body physically. When you look at essential oils, it's kind of like the blood or the immune system of a plant. We extract that precious oil. It takes 40 roses to get one drop of rose oil. I mean, it's just super precious. When
Mm,
we introduce that into our system, like in a massage oil or a mist or something, that's operating to support our immune system and boost our circulation. It also makes us feel good.
yeah.
Flower essences are the consciousness of a plant. It's like the
Mhm.
mind of a plant. So it's then in turn working on our consciousness. There is no scent. It is purely homeopathic. It is super dilute. It's essentially like the life force energy of a plant. And that's working, we haven't even talked about this, but it's like it works in the same way as your cell phone. Your cell phone has all kinds of important and nuanced information that ride on invisible waves through space. The same thing is happening in nature. All of this invisible energy networks riding on waves through space. And when we pull it into our system, in our etheric body or electromagnetic field, whatever you want to call it, our system knows how to magnify it. We're like walking crystals. So we pull that information in, we magnify it, it goes through all of our meridians, nadis, chakras, all the energy centers of the body and goes to where it needs. The result of that is that we feel different, we think differently, we notice things about ourselves that we didn't see before, and other people can see it, and
Yeah.
it impacts, everything from there.
Yeah.
So you go from like the real like earthy plant material to like the juice from a plant to then like the more subtle frequency, and they all play their part and they all work in tandem together. We work with Actually, we work with all of them. We do herbal teas, and then we have essential oils in some of our mists, and then we have just the purely internal remedies that are like the traditional way of working with flower essences.
Yeah, the consciousness that you're speaking of. I mean, first of all, there's been so much research recently, even more so on water consciousness. And for me,
Mhm.
this all feels really resonant as it's one consciousness. It's expressing in all the different ways. And I'm learning to attune and listen and receive and become almost like, yeah, like I said, there's a communication happening. And it is subtle, but that I feel like is God, and we have to slow down enough to the speed of that wisdom to really, really listen from our heart. And there are so many beautiful flower essences, and I love the mist. Like, I just feel more beautiful, like literally just beautiful from within when I spray the mist. It's my favorite thing to do to start my day. It's the very first thing I do actually when I'm drinking my first cup of water and I spray and I take my elixirs and I'm just like, it's just like, hello, it's so good. Um, I know that we're coming to a close, but I definitely want to chat about the distinctions from your point of view on psychedelic plant medicine versus what I think you call the philosophy of plant wisdom. And is it true that you still have not or just haven't sat with psychedelics?
In terms of making remedies of those plants,
No. Have you ever? worked with psychedelics yourself, ingested yourself?
Oh, I mean, there's like a lot of things that happened in my college days.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you on a podcast talk about yeah, it's not something you had ever tried, but maybe I misunderstood there. So, can we though talk about that? Because I feel like what this is it's really microdosing. And of course, there's just so much microdosing conversation out there, and
Yeah.
I definitely contribute to that.
Yeah.
I love San Pedro, by the way, as a microdose um, when I'm feeling called to it. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I have never, like, for example, I personally have never been involved in an ayahuasca ceremony. I've watched a lot of
That's
friends,
it.
you know, I've watched a lot of friends work with entheogen substances. And um, from my perspective, I find it really interesting that as a culture, because you get to a certain age and you've got the different decades of, like we were talking about, different things happen in different times.
Patterns, yes.
We're living through a time right now where there's a trend towards being really interested in like maybe 8 to 10 different species. When there's hundreds of thousands of different plants.
Yes.
I find that interesting
Same.
because you can't, have a child. I mean, you can, but realistically, logically, practically, we're not going to give ayahuasca to a child or an elder or a pregnant mama.
Mhm.
And I'm interested in what are those remedies that are gentle enough, safe enough that will over time give a profound insight to someone. But you can take it every day, all day, at work, not at work. You're 4 years old, you're 85 years old. Um, and in some ways that you could view it just be like microdosing is kind of a funny word. It's like similar in that it's like a homeopathic, right? So we make flower essences of poisonous flowers and no problem because it's a homeopathic.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
in some ways, it's like the ultimate microdosing, flower essences because it's the homeopathic essence of the plant.
Mhm.
I just see that there's like so much left on the table, if we're only obsessed with, 6 or 8 different species of plants, there's so much more left to be discovered that is in a really gentle and safe and practical way to be used.
Mhm.
I've watched many friends get involved in entheogens as sort of like a spiritual path.
Mhm.
And I've seen a lot of people get drawn in with a really pure motivation of like, I want to find myself. I want to know my spiritual power. I want to get this sense of profound, right? I want to have an experience. And some people get trapped, I believe. I've watched some people get trapped in a world that's like, hey, it's actually not the substance.
Yeah.
It's you. Like
Yes.
you are the magic. And maybe the substance opens up a door to some sort of uh insight or glimpse of something.
Mhm.
But in the same way, I'm never gonna say, Michelle, that all people have to do is take flower essences and they'll become enlightened. Hell
Right.
no. Flower
Mhm.
essences are opening the door. Ultimately, we have to walk through that door.
But isn't that what any plant medicine ceremony is anyway? It shows us a door, it shows us a portal, might take us in it, and then it's up for us in that integration, which is called all of life, because life is a living ceremony, to weave those insights of what you
Yeah.
saw when the door was open, right? So it's the same thing. It's being the creator of our reality on the daily. The
And
co
I think Yeah, and I think sometimes people get trapped into thinking that they need that substance
Yes,
in
I know.
order.
I have several friends who have gotten in that trap that consider themselves even sober, right? And but that is their daily, go-to, and I have compassion for that, but I can see how that could become a trap easily.
And then, you come back to like, well, there's like hundreds of thousands of plants in the world. Each one holds a special gift for us.
Yeah.
There's so much like uniqueness and nuance, and just like how all of us are so different, and like a fingerprint of how
Mhm.
we're operating in this layered onion.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know, it's just like the most amazing, beautiful buffet of personal growth options and support that come in the form of this, beautiful plants and flowers.
Yeah, beautifully said. Very curious for someone who is trying to get pregnant. I have two dear friends in my life right now. What do you recommend for flower essences?
Squash blossom, which is found in the blend called Luscious Embodiment.
Okay, beautiful.
It So many women have gotten pregnant working with that elixir. It's like enhances fertility and feeling comfortable in your own body and trusting yourself as a mother and regulating cycles. Actually, I would add in radiant energy has pomegranate, and that's for regulating the cycles so you can pinpoint when your ovulation times are.
Amazing. Okay. And how about for those who are wanting to get a creative project off the ground? I mean, obviously, night blooming serious. Is there anything else? The inspired action was also very much in my cart.
Inspired action is like if you just want to like get it done. There's
Yeah.
also game changer, which is like
Ooh,
thinking outside the box.
okay, good.
Inner knowing is more like trusting your
Ooh.
inner compass.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. And then how about I realize that your newest, I think, bundle is called Awakened Understanding. And I feel like that's just obviously so timely. Can you speak about that? Because I'm hoping that we'll get as many people as feel called to start to assist yourself with these beautiful allies. Go take the quiz, but also for those of us on this infinite awakening journey, like that one really spoke to me too when I saw it new on the site.
Awakened understanding is about looking at the things inside of ourselves that we're afraid of. And we don't typically think about things like that, but it's like the monster under the bed when we're a kid, you know? There's a monster under the bed. There are some things that we feel inside of ourselves as like the monster under the bed.
Mhm.
And so it gives us the courage and resilience to just like take a peek and take a look at it. And then all the kind of stuff around it dissolves and we realize that there isn't anything to be afraid of
Ever. That's
and we can
beautiful.
be fearless and courageous.
See, my friend, that right there is an ayahuasca ceremony in a nutshell. Eyes in, turn inward, learn to just be with whatever we think we're so afraid to see. And then we'll see that it actually never, ever had any power over us. This is 2020 with the benefit of hindsight, you know? So it's an incredible time. You have an awesome event coming up here in Austin. And since this is coming out right around the same time, before you close us out with a beautiful guided meditation, I think, around flowers and our flower, can you speak to that in case there's anyone who chooses to fly in or show up?
Oh, I would love that. So we're doing the Wave of Pure Intent Flower Lounge tour this year, and we're visiting multiple cities around the states and around the world, actually, going later into this year. We'll be in Austin on April 11th in at a venue in Dripping Springs.
Mhm.
And it will be flower lounges are like an experience where it's like coming to the altar of you. Like,
Mm.
what's the most important thing to you? And every flower lounge tour is different. So this year we do something completely different than 2 years ago. This year it's about the power of making offerings. How do you make offerings? Why would you make offerings? What does that mean on a daily basis? How does that bring you more abundance and a sense of your own divine nature? We'll do a green Tara healing ceremony, which is a practice that our team learned a couple of years ago in Nepal. And then we do a really, really, really cool group exercises with a flower card deck. Sounds like, a tarot card deck or something, but it's much more profound than that. It's like in a couple seconds, as you're sitting with a group of people that you've never met before, you can see like right to the like spot, like your next opportunity for growth.
Mm.
It's so cool. And then everyone
Ooh.
gets to share and have like real-time realizations about like, wow, oh, like this is my edge right now.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful. So I would love to invite everyone. And then we're also doing a couple like we're doing a happy hour at Alive and Well in Bee Cave. We're doing a public flower offering. So there's, all kinds of cool, fun events.
Things happening on the same day. Yeah.
It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, so that's Friday the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Okay, beautiful. I know I will absolutely be there on the 11th, and I'm bringing a few friends, and so I'm super excited about that. And you know what's cool is I didn't even realize what the theme was, but the one thing that I've been wanting to know about more than anything, and I'm so excited that it's going to come from your guidance, is how to do a sacred offering. So she goes, the matriarch tree, like I'm just kind of making things up, some cacao, like a crystal, like, I've definitely given some offerings and then I know when to take it back and then bring in that something new. And But now I will actually, yeah, have a little bit more awareness around it. So thank you for that. Before you share your guidance, is there anything else that you wanted to offer or wish you'd been asked?
Hmm. No, I think we covered a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, so I will also just make it clear again, even though I did in the opening, for those of you who definitely know you want to have these allies, assist you on your journey. You can actually enjoy a nice discount by heading over to Lotus Wei, so LotusWei.com/fire and soul. And then when you do, by all means, let me know, let her know, tag her on social. You'll love their Instagram, by the way. Your Instagram is like, it's like my favorite thing to follow. Like such beautiful
Hmm.
videos and vibrant colors, and it's a blast of love and frequency, like when you open that up. Same thing with your website. So I'm just really excited to open this portal that you've created and that you have been such a beautiful, honorable steward of. So speaking of, yes, let's drop us deeper in.
I guess I would just say very like lastly, there's a lot of things that we can't say on the website publicly.
Mhm.
So if anyone has any particular concerns or they want to know like how do I help my autistic child or what do I do with my parent who has dementia or in like a hospice situation or this particular illness, like don't hesitate to reach out to us as we love to connect people to flowers and the options that are available.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was thinking we would do a little exercise. It's very simple. I would just say close your eyes
Okay.
and go back to a time in your childhood when you played around flowers or plants or trees and just reflect for a moment on what you were doing at the time, what you're feeling. See if you can identify a favorite flower or plant or tree. And then once you have that identified, describe the personality of that plant in 3 words without color or fragrance. Like, how would you describe the essence of that particular botanical? And then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Mm.
This is a two-part exercise. So that's the first part. Tell me what you were thinking about.
Me. I was in
Yeah.
my granddad on my dad's side, Santa Barbara in his backyard, and he was a steward of a most magnificent rose garden, front and back. And I was about 7, and I was wearing a dress and barefoot, just running through. And at first, I thought it was the avocado tree because that was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful being, but it was the rose garden. And so it was especially a rose, a wild red rose. And the 3 words that came to mind were beautiful, strong, and resilient.
Beautiful, strong, and resilient. And then close your eyes again. And just see if you can bring to mind any particular flower that is intriguing today. Maybe you don't have any experience with it, but it's just something that's like so cool.
Got it.
And then also describe its essence or personality or the feeling you get from it in 3 words.
Mhm.
And when you're ready, open your eyes and tell me what you're thinking.
I've never seen it in real life. I've never smelled it, but it's definitely the night blooming cereus. Um, it feels very feminine, like cool, creative, and gosh, powerful.
Okay, so now if you're listening to this podcast, this is your moment to stop and do the exercise yourself
Mhm,
and write down some words so you don't forget. First, it's your childhood flower, and then it's something you're intrigued by today.
mhm,
Okay, so what this means is so when it's your childhood flower, it is typically the way that you bring your greatest gifts into the world. It's like you at your core essence, beautiful, strong, and resilient. So when you look over the course of your life at all the things that you have accomplished or that you've worked on or you've efforted into or created, most likely you will see that you have played the role of being beautiful, strong, and resilient.
mm.
And then the flower that you're intrigued by today is something that you're moving more into. It's like there's a part of you that wants more of that, to embody that more. So you may find that in your current endeavors, you're diving more into a sense of cool feminine and your creativity and how to be more powerful.
Definitely what I'm feeling. And it is like, it's so weird because it's not like edgy feminine. She's just cool. She's bougie, hippie. She doesn't care about fashion, but she likes a little bit of something. You know what I mean? Like she wants to be comfortable, but yeah, she's just cool. It's like when I saw the images of the night blooming Sirius, she was just so unique. That's what I should have said. So unique. And so that's what it is that the path that I am being called to steward is not one that I've seen before because it's meant for me. It's mysterious. It's one of a kind. It's powerful. Yes. I wish everyone could see your face right now. It's like, yeah, that's it. And it's, and just yeah, just really surrendering to that is really cool too because it used to be more about what things look like, right? And now it's more about what it feels like. And that flower spoke to me even before I knew that it was speaking to me because I'd seen the image, but didn't know it. So cool. Yeah. That's fun. Thank you for that.
Of course, my goodness.
Oh, so good. Man, okay, so I will list all the ways in which to reach you, but it's also you guys offer one-on-one consults and readings, right? Yeah, so I want to make sure because there's so much to explore on your website. I mean, it is a library of all libraries of just guidebooks and ebooks and your flower essence book, and your calendar, which I'm so bummed that I just discovered like today because it feels like it's a bit late in April, but it might not be too late because it's still so beautiful. Yeah. So we have to remember like next year, get on that wait list for anyone who wants the full year. But yeah, it's definitely a portal. So thank you for everything that you bring to the world. I'm super looking forward to meeting you next Friday in Austin.
Yeah, we also have a wellness center in Phoenix called the Self-Arising Nature Center. So if anyone is listening and they're coming through or going to Sedona or want to stop by, we have a building here with lots of different services, and or you just want to like come in, have some tea and dark chocolate and get a flower reading,
Mm,
anyone's welcome.
amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on today.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Uh,